Hello, YouTube. Airborne troops in the USSR were a separate branch of the armed forces, and as such continue to reside in the structure of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. In the armies of other countries, the situation is different. In particular, there is no airborne troops in the United States as such, similar to the Russians. Its functions are performed by Marines, Rangers, and a special unit, Navy SEALs. My uncle Dmitry served in the Soviet airborne troops in the 1950s, and my mother's uncle was fighting against Nazis in the airborne troops of the Red Army's Air Force as a frontline officer in World War II. Blue sky dotted with white parachutes. That's the image that most people have when it comes to airborne soldiers. However, few people know that in the 1930s in the Soviet Union, they were closely engaged in the technology of landing with the help of wings. The Icarus paratroopers, so to say, had to basically glide in the air during the descent, dodging enemy bullets. Bird people, one of the first testers of air wings was the designer Sergei Samfirov. He worked in the Aviahim plant and was fond of parachuting. A colleague named Koptyov helped him create the aircraft. The design with a wingspan of 4 meters was mounted on the back. It was a fabric-covered metal frame weighing 13.5 kilograms. The tests took place in June of 1935. At an altitude of 2,500 meters, Samfirov jumped off the ANT-9 plane aircraft, but then everything did not go quite smoothly. Opening the wings, the pilot got into a tailspin. He was able to switch to gliding mode, only dropping by 800 meters. At a distance of several hundred meters to the ground, Samfirov still released a parachute. Otherwise, it would not have been possible to achieve a soft landing. Another similar design was tested in 1935 by Georgy Schmidt, an employee of the Air Force Research Institute in the Soviet Union. The skeleton of the cotton wings was made of telescopic tubes. They could be controlled in the air with ailerons. An aileron is a hinged flight control surface, usually forming part of the trailing edge of each wing of a fixed-wing aircraft. From 1,500 to 600 meters, Schmidt glided, even making a dead loop at some point, and finally released a parachute. Wow, this flight lasted 45 seconds. In 1936, Boris Pavlov-Selivansky, who studied at the Zhukovsky Air Force Academy, and I talked about this academy not long ago. It has the best young officers who are now engaged, some of them, in the study of UFOs as well. Well, anyway, they conducted several similar tests of wings of his own invention. He managed to extend the duration of the flight to 120 to 140 seconds. The news about successful flights on the wings was greeted by the public with enthusiasm. The Soviet media nicknamed Samfirov another Icarus, jokingly referring to the mythical master Daedalus, the author of the magazine Vakruk Sveta, or Around the World, in 1936, stated that the wings tested by Soviet parachutists were no match for angel-like wings made of feathers bonded with wax. The advantage of using wings for civilian parachuting were obvious. Due to gliding, it was possible to significantly extend the stay in the air, enhance the brightness of sensations. But in the 1930s, the purely amateur parachuting did not exist in the Soviet Union. The country was preparing for war, and the landing technique was one of the most pressing issues. The wings allowed maneuvering during descent, moving to the ground along the arbitrary trajectory. Paratroopers landing in this way would be almost invulnerable to machine gunners who easily shoot ordinary paratroopers and get them, especially if the sky was filled with dozens of fighters flying in different directions. Although this prospect seemed tempting, it did not come to the mass use of wings either in civilian or military aviation. The designs of Samfirov, Schmidt, and Pavlov Silivansky remained only prototypes. First of all, this was due to the fact that even a few people with oversized wings could not be accommodated in an airplane. That is, there was no talk of full-fledged amphibious operations. But even for delivering individual trained saboteurs to work behind enemy lines, the wings turned out to be unsuitable. To control them, it took much more skills than for a parachute descent. Most of all, gliding on the wings resembled piloting a hang glider. In addition, the fighter had to release the parachute in time, completing the jump in the traditional way. Under such conditions, losses due to unsuccessful landings were inevitable. It was also impossible to load the winged soldiers with heavy weapons. The deviation in weight by several kilograms became critical. Well, according to general human knowledge, soaring military paratroopers appeared in the 21st century. According to the Daily Star newspaper, the fighters of the British Special Air Service Special Air Forces in Iraq and Syria fly to the ground in parachute suits, wingsuits. However, they do not take weapons with them, landing in places where there are already caches of barrels and ammunition. But maybe the ancients knew and used wings to fly. Boris Akunin's book, The Walnut Buddha, it's a novel, tells the story of a Buddhist monk from Japan on a special mission in the 18th century Russia to recover the stolen Buddha artifact. The book is simply splendid, like other books by Boris Akunin, and they're available in English now. The monk was master of martial arts too, and he built wings for flying. Very interesting but simple to make wings. And he soared in the sky and taught his young disciple how to do it. Read the book. I think it's available in English and other languages by now. Most of his other books are. Akunin knows Japan and its history and is fluent in Japanese. Such different inhabitants of Russia, Holland, Japan find themselves connected by ancient relic, making a mystical journey through centuries and spaces. Read the book's announcement. The novel, The Walnut Buddha, describes the adventures of a sacred figurine which, by chance, made a long journey from distant Japan to Muscovy. Buddha wanders through Russia, reared up by Peter the Great, helping the heroes of the book to find their way to themselves. But I also think that if they knew in Japan, ancient Japan, at least some people, how to make such wings, it's an art that could have existed in previous centuries. It's just something that we may not know about too much, and I don't think there are records about it. But it's an idea to keep in mind. So that's what I wanted to let you know today. If you like my research, by all means, please support me through Patreon, through PayPal. You'll see how to do it in the description to this video. Please subscribe to my channel and please tell others. Thank you.